Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Shalini Khemka. I'm the founder of E2E. I'd like to say thank you very much to you all for joining me today. And this is our virtual reception with the exceptional lady who's sitting here on the panel. Her name is Nicola Elliott. She's the founder of NEOM Organics. I'd also like to say thank you to our serviced office partner. It's IWG UK PLC. I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a few minutes, but they have some great offers which are exclusively for E2E members. But quickly, in terms of the format, I just want to run you through the format of this evening. So we're starting now, we're kicking off with me just having a brief chat with you about E2E and introducing some of the partnership upsides that we have with IWG. After that, I'm going to ask you all to participate in a very short poll, and then I'm going to do an introduction of Nicola Elliott, and then we'll be followed by a Q&A. So can you all see at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should be able to see a sign which says raise hands. So if you raise your hand, what I'll ask you to do is I'll say your name and please introduce yourself, and then we'll go into a Q&A, ask your question, and Nicola or I will go ahead and answer it. So hopefully you've all seen the raise hand button. Before I move on to all of that, so I'd like to start by saying thank you to you all. We're going through a very difficult time at the moment, but it is through camaraderie, it's through this collaboration, it's through our concerted effort that we're going to bring the UK economy back on track. And my team and I, we're really focused on doing that. We have a couple of hundred people registered for today, and many members, as well as some of you are new members. So therefore, by quick introduction, I just wanted to say a few words on E2E. For those of you that don't know us, it stands for Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur Exchange. Our focus is equivalent. If you know Match.com, I'm hoping that a lot of you have come across these dating sites. We are like a business version of Match.com. So our mission is really to bring entrepreneurs together to help you build trusted relationships with entrepreneurs. We have a community of 23,000 members. Our members contribute 213 billion to the UK economy, and they employ 1.15 million people. So we have a lot of power within our membership. Since March, as you'll probably understand, we've had to pivot our model, and we've been very much focused on supporting our members through COVID. So some of the things that we've been doing is virtual events. We've been trying to help arrange financing for our members. I've been personally involved in something called the Business Action Council. It's been set up by a gentleman called Maurice Ostro. So if you have accessed the Bounce Back loan, that's been a result of the initiative that E2E has in place. In terms of the Business Action Council, I've been leading the Job Retention Scheme Recommendation Committee. So if you come across Flexi Furlough, that has happened as a result of the work of the Business Action Council. So we've been writing to the Chancellor and sort of representing the needs of E2E members. So a few other things I'd like to say to you. Membership at the moment of E2E is free. In a few months' time, we will be introducing a new community portal where you can actually connect founders with founders, and that will be priced at £25 a month. For that, if people want to upgrade from the complimentary membership, what will happen as a result of that, you can do a number of different things. One of the benefits is you get 6 months free membership to the CBI. There's £1,000 of credit for CRM solutions. Actually, it's $10,000 for CRM solutions and £1,000 for digital support. So there's a lot of different benefits. And I won't tell you too much further about those benefits, but ask you to come and have a look on the membership section of our website. So we're here to help you get connected to both financiers, investors, and other people, entrepreneurs within our network. One of our big missions is to turn knowledge into wisdom, and that's why I'm particularly pleased that we're running this whole series of events where we're fortunate enough to have people like Nicola, who's going to share with us how she's taken a business, co-founded it sort of many years ago, but built it to an over sort of 30 million turnover company. When I saw her for the first time today, I really feel she's too young. So I was asking her, how has she done this? So it's really nice to have the opportunity to share knowledge with people such as ourselves. If you joined us last week, hopefully you will have heard from Lord Bill Moria and Rita Clifton. They talked about building a global brand during the time of COVID. So it's really nice to be able to share some of our experience with you. Now, I'd like to say a huge thank you. As I mentioned, IWG PLC, they are our partner, serviced office partner, and they are sponsoring this event today. Just to tell you a little bit about them, hopefully you've heard of the name Regis. They rebranded a few years ago to IWG. They've got over 2.5 million using their workspaces, and they're the leading global workspace platform in the world and the largest serviced office company in the world. They've got 3,300 locations in 110 countries. They've got extensive reach over the UK, but for members of E2E, some of the benefits I just share with you, and I'm just touching on some of them. So if you're looking for a virtual office package or a serviced office package, they're offering 50% discount on a 6-month contract or more, so effectively 3 months free. They're offering free unlimited access to the business lounges. There's lots of business lounges across the UK and to the Regis Airport lounges. And a lot of people are at the moment we're experiencing are looking for meeting rooms. So they're working from homes but using meeting rooms. So if you're in that sort of need, they're offering a 10% discount on their meeting rooms as well as renting an office for a day. So those are some of the things on IWG. Our other partners, hopefully you'll have seen them on the website. They're companies like PitchBook, UBS, Hayes McIntyre, and I won't go through the whole list, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of a summary on what we do. And if you have a minute to look at our website, you will see we have a series of, we've pivoted our business from physical events to a virtual events program. So next week we have Jim McCall. He's one of the 5 richest men in Scotland. He bought a company and built it up to become Clyde Blowers, sort of self-made billionaire. The week after we have Simon Woodruff, then we have Damien Gabriel. So we're working hard to try and keep our members connected. Now I'm going to ask Nicola to speak in a few minutes and I will introduce her. But before we do that, I'm going to ask my CTO to just ask you guys to please get involved in the poll. So we're going to bring up a poll. There are just a few quick questions on that. So if I read them out to you, we're going to try and share the results later on, and when we have the interactive Q&A, I'll share them out. So if you wouldn't mind to take a few minutes just to answer these questions. I'm interested in E2E because the events are very informative and educational. I make valuable, high-quality connections. I make use of the membership benefits. So pick 1, 2, or 3 of those. Second question, which of the below services would you need the most? Business services consultation, we've got partnerships with lawyers, accountants and consultants. Receiving flexi mentoring, so we're launching flexi mentoring quite soon. Finding a non-exec director, we offer that already. Meeting like-minded individuals. Fundraising, offer your services to our members. Question number 3, which of the following services would you benefit from the most? This is where we're trying to evolve our business to suit you. Real-time private market data, sales intelligence software, digital marketing support, web hosting or development, customer relationship management software. So please pick what you fancy there. And the final question here is, would you benefit from discounted access to physical or virtual office packages, meeting rooms, or business lounge access in the UK? It's either a yes or a no, and we'll follow up with you if you would like us to do that. So I'm just going to ask to stay on the screen for 1 minute, Stephen, if you wouldn't mind, and we'll just do the poll. What do you think, Stephen? Can I move on now? Is it enough time? I'll move on. So I'm going to move on to introduce you, Nicola, if I may. So Nicola Elliott, she is the founder and the creative director of NEOM Organics. She's widely recognized as one of the first and fastest growing wellbeing brands in the UK. She co-founded the business in 2005. The company has 80 staff, The headquarters is in Harrogate. We would have been doing this event physically in Leeds, but we're doing it virtually. She has a lot of staff outside of Harrogate as well. I think London is the second hub. They distribute internationally to 17 countries, which includes the US and Asia. Their turnover, as I mentioned earlier, is in excess of £30 million. She's on the board of a children's charity called Hunslet Club. She's got 2 kids. She's just come back from horse riding, and she's going to be leaving. We need to finish around 7 because she's got to take her son to football. So she has a son and a daughter, 10 years old and 12 years old, which we don't mind. This is life. This is the good thing. It keeps us on track. And NEOM Organics is private equity backed. It's backed by Piper Private Equity. Her co-founder, his name is Oliver Menel. NEOM is stocked within the renowned retailers. I buy their stuff from Peter Jones, which is John Lewis partnership, in Selfridges and in Phoenix. I'm sure I've just mentioned just a few of them, and Nicola will elaborate on that. With the UK candle market, it's valued at 90 million. All the products that NEOM Organics have, their unique selling points are they're organic, they're made in Britain, they're from ethically sourced and sustainable origins, and they only use natural organic ingredients, no artificial perfumes. The NEOM product line has expanded significantly to incorporate home, body, facial skincare, as well as well-being and spa treatments. Nicola was previously awarded the title of Entrepreneur of the Year of the Future in the prestigious Women of the Future Awards. She's an inspiration to women, and the press always are talking about her because well-being is a priority. The global well-being industry is valued at $4.2 trillion. So I think there's a big market that she's tapping into. So I'm absolutely delighted to have the opportunity, especially as I've got a number of your candles in my house. It's nice to be able to, for the first time ever, meet the founder and ask you to share some of your challenges and your story with us, Nicola, if you wouldn't mind. So I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. That was a big old big up. I feel like kind of humbled by that. It's still really weird to me because when we talk about the NEOM journey, in fact, we spoke on the phone earlier, and you said, "Oh, I love your candles," and I still feel if I see anything NEOM in someone's house, or if I'm on Rightmove or something, I see it in the bathroom, I say, "Oh, they've got NEOM." Like, I know how much stuff leaves the warehouse, obviously, but it still feels like my baby that in my own head. So it's always quite humbling to have a lovely intro like that. And hi to everyone. I love doing Zoom events. I did one for John Lewis last night. I've got another one tomorrow night. I love doing them because I used to have to commute from Harrogate to London every week, which was terribly draining until pre-COVID. And so the Zoom events suit me in many ways a lot more, but I don't like the fact that I can't see everyone's faces. It's kind of weird. So that's the only downside. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is just kind of condense my history of building the brand, I suppose, and the brand story into 20 minutes. And then there's a sort of mop-up Q&A at the end. So if I go too brand heavy or too business heavy or miss something out, then feel free. There's not really much that's off limits. I'm happy to answer kind of everything that I know the answers to. Okay. So NEOM isn't quite the baby brand that I think a lot of people think it is. We started in 2005, so we've been around for a while. But I do remember actually when we were about 5 years old, I went to a trade show. And we did some trade shows in the early days. We don't do that now, but we did in the early days. And I met Nikki Kinnaird from Space NK, and she said, it takes 10 years to create a brand in the UK. And we went, oh, goodness, wow. Oliver and I, my co-partner. And as she went off, we turned to each other and we were like, if I can swear, sod that. 10 years. And I can concur, it takes at least 10 years to create a brand. And I think that is because, of course, there are ways of shortcutting, and we didn't get funding, by the way, until only 2.5 years ago. And of course, with a whole heap of money, you can fast track that. But you can't buy people's trust. And we always set out to be a well-being brand, and to really talk about well-being, and well-being the way in which we define it, which actually is about better sleep, less stress, boosting your energy, lifting your mood. You have to really get a connection with your customers. They have to really trust you. And actually the strongest way that you're going to sell to them is word of mouth. So therein lies more trust, because your friend has tried it and it's helped her through a difficult period, or it helped her with her stress, or it helped her sleep, etc. So trust for well-being, and for my brand, I've found has been absolutely the sort of the linchpin of building the brand. And fortunately now, but unfortunately certainly then, that's not something that you could fast track. So back in 2005, I was a journalist. I actually worked for over 10 years as a journalist on glossy magazines. And that's all I ever wanted to do. I loved working in magazines, and it was brilliant fun. And it was the time when people were still buying magazines. And I would fly between New York, LA, and London. And I was young, so that was fine. I didn't have the kids. I didn't have football trips to run around afterwards. And I loved it. It was brilliant. And life was great. And I was like every 28-year-old, partying super hard and, working hard and at the office till 9 at night and eating a slice of pizza on the way home and all that kind of stuff. And, well-being wasn't a thing then. I mean, only, like real fit people went to the gym. Just, it wasn't a thing. And I started suffering for no good known reason to me with anxiety. And it sort of manifested itself in the form of panic attacks. And I just became really kind of jittery and anxious. And it was, looking back, the scariest part about that was that nothing had really kind of gone wrong. I didn't have any problem. Life was fine. It was just so full of stuff. And I was burning the candle so badly at both ends, and no respect for myself. No real knowledge, I don't suppose, at 28 as to how you looked after yourself. I mean, sort of an idea that you kind of need to eat well, but no real idea of how to look after myself. And so I had this kind of this time where I was suffering this anxiety, and it wasn't good. And I had this kind of moment with my mum where she was like, "You need to look after yourself. It's basic stuff, Nicola. It's like, it's sleeping, it's exercising, it's getting fresh air, it's not working 15 hours a day, it's eating all right foods." And so that's exactly what I did. I started looking after myself. There was no major breakthrough. There was no major, and then I took this pill, and it was just looking after myself. And as part of that kind of journey, which took months, I was going to the gym. I trained as a nutritionist, became really interested in nutrition, and I started using aromatherapy products. I loved the fact that I could kind of come home and I could go to what sort of seemed like a luxury apothecary in my own bathroom and pull out the tinctures that would help me with however I was feeling that day. And that was really sort of where my love of using aromatherapy products came from. And that really was where the blends that I started working on, which we actually still now have in the business, came from. But during that time, I remember looking around at all of my friends and thinking, oh my God, everyone I know seems to suffer from either poor sleep, and that's not necessarily not sleeping well enough, but poor sleep and all the effects of that, stress, which for me was obviously manifesting itself in quite a chronic way, but just stressed out in a kind of very normal way, lack of energy or mood swings. And I remember thinking, God, if you get those 4 things in kilter, that's good well-being. That's what it is. And so there I am, sort of blending essential oils. There I am, sort of thinking about kind of what well-being means and the definition of it. My sister worked at Friends of the Earth. She now works at WWF, is still a staunch greenie. And in fact, ended up getting an OBE for services to climate change. But again, this is back in 2005, right? So this was not cool at all. I'd go around, she was literally wearing a Hessian sack. The heating was turned off. I mean, she was a staunch greenie. And she was having real trouble sleeping. But when I was blending the essential oils, obviously essential oils, you know, in their purest sense are natural because they're plant oils. But when I was blending them into, because you can't use them neat, they're too strong, into oils, my sister was fastidious about only using natural products. So she really opened my eyes to the benefits of using natural. And so I'm kind of using natural products. I'm using essential oils because actually they're the things that are going to really help the well-being. Also, that's not going to work if you're using synthetic anyway, because, you know, you can't help someone sleep with something that smells like lavender or whatever. It has to be the actual natural plant oils. So here sort of starts percolating. There was no light bulb moment, as I'm sure you're gathering. Here starts percolating this idea for NEOM, which is a brand that's going to help in a very modern way. That was really important. Anything you could get that was natural in 2005, anything that had aromatherapy oils in it was like dusty, smelt like crap, was just from the health food shop. So it was going to be modern, it was going to be fresh, it was going to be, there were going to be blends that didn't just smell gorgeous, but could very much sort of suit modern women and men and family lifestyles. So fit into that rather than kind of, you know, so many of those names that you might see in a, you know, an essential bottle like Inspire or something. It's like, what? They were going to be very practical and very modern. And they were going to be natural and they were going to be blended to work in the best possible way. And the idea was always, this is sort of the, computer jiggling, the more business sort of part of my brain was, the idea was that it was always going to be a beauty range like we have now, you know, a well-being collection that would sit within beauty halls in my head that would be sold in a way that you would get in an apothecary. But of course, we didn't have the money to launch a brand like that. You know, launching a beauty brand is big bucks. And I'm 28 and Oliver's 26. I think he was maybe 2 years younger than me. And I had a car that I'd been given for my 21st birthday, which by then was worth $5,000. And he'd won something on like a game show, totally random. So he had like $5,000 from that. And then we sort of cobbled together another 5. We had 15 grand and that was it. And of course, you can't go with the minimum order quantities on beauty products and buy a range of, it was just ridiculous. You know, I quite often describe that phase of our business life as sort of, you know, trying to walk up Mount Everest in flip-flops. We were totally unprepared. So what we decided that we were going to sort of concentrate on candles, because actually at the time we sort of unearthed this little known fact that 98% of candles were made of paraffin wax. And actually, if we could make something that was a completely natural candle, paraffin wax, obviously the byproduct of crude oil, was not something that, you know, you necessarily wanted to burn in your home. And so we could create something that was this real treatment. You know, you would light it, and as you breathe it in and it filled the room with the fragrance, and you breathe that in, it would help you with one of those well-being benefits. So that was kind of how we sort of got shoehorned into starting with 4 candles. And I had a 2-bedroom flat in Islington at the time. My flatmate had just moved out, so we thought we'll use a 2nd bedroom as a warehouse. We got the candles delivered to our house. We could just and so fit them in the 2nd bedroom, and I could sort of fit through and pick them out. Ollie was pretty good on tech. I was awful. And so what he would do was come home and he would tell me how many orders we'd had. And the rule was if we had over 5 orders, I was allowed to expense a black cab into work the next day, because that wasn't a reasonable, you know, weight for me to have to carry on the bus. But if it was under 5 candles, I had to struggle on the bus and walk around to the post office to post them. So, you know, that's just nuts when I think, you know, we're having like 10,000 visits a day to the website or whatever we're having in low season right now. So that was kind of how NEOM was born. We have had no real kind of a moment where things have took off. We have built it brick by brick. When I look back, I often think there's 2 ways to do this. Clearly, you raise the cash and go faster, you give away the equity, or you keep hold of it like we did and you build it brick by brick. I'm 6 2/3. Having looked back at that journey is the best way to grow, because clearly there's pros and cons. You know, Ollie and I now are majority shareholders. We have Piper Private Equity invested, but We call all the shots. It's our business. We, own, like I said, the majority, and that's a lovely feeling to have a business this size that we own in that way, and I have complete creative control over. Yet, it's been a long journey, and as I said to you before, I don't think you can fast forward trust, but also, building it brick by brick. It's a hard old slog, and I have learned every mistake by doing it, and have learned all the stuff that you guys, I'm sure, will know, which is it's down to great people, and you need that vision, and you need to remain loyal to that vision, and don't copy people. Be original, because you can copy them one season but not the next season, and you've got to keep that balance of not constantly renewing yourself, because I can be a bit too creative in that way and want to bring new out. You need to stick to your brand mission, yet you also need enough excitement to keep the customer engaged. And these are things that we've heard. I'm sure they're not new things. They are all the things that that everyone says who builds a consumer brand. But we are now, we are now a decent size. We've kind of finally got it to the stage that I want to get it to. We've got another couple of years with Piper before our next event. And I don't know what that will be. I know you'll ask me that, and I don't know what that will be. But it's been brilliant. It's been great fun, and I'm proud of it. And that's my story. Oh, I think you're on mute. You're on mute. Hi, I can't hear you. There you are. Sorry, I can hear you now. You were muted.
Yes, that's fine. Sorry, I was muted. Thank you. That was very, very inspirational. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I think what I'd like to do is ask the audience to raise their hand and ask a question. And I think if I'm right, Eunice has one. I've got several questions of you, Nicola, but thank you very much. You've obviously said it as it was, and brick by brick I can empathize with. We've been building E2E for 9 years. There is no magic formula. It is sheer hard work, day in, day out, and congratulations for you for kind of finding sort of a market that you're very, very strong in, and building it in this way. And it's a lot. I think one of the things we'll talk about in a minute is around the execution, is to share some of your strategies around execution, because we all have great ideas, but actually turning them into a £30 million business is down to effective execution. So I'll touch on that in a minute. But I'm going to ask, I think, Eunice to ask the first question. He's on the chat function right now. So our CTO is going to open up the mic to him.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Eunice.
Thank you for arranging this. And Nicola, nice to see you here.
Hi.
A couple of things. I spent most of my very happy youth in Scandinavia and Denmark, and people are extremely aware of the natural products and environment and so on. So my first question is, are you currently selling your product into the Scandinavian market? Because we've got a setup there where we distribute high-level cosmetics to department stores like Elam and so on. And the second question is, you're talking about customer loyalty and brand building, and Shalini is aware of it. We are launching an AI-based, blockchain-based loyalty app, which is the world's best, and I can basically explain that once we get the time to do that. So when you started to create your brand loyalty, how did you do that? I mean, was it just advertising? Was it social media? Or was it going to trade shows, or actually showing up in likes of department stores and dealing with the customers and listening to what they wanted?
Yeah, so it was kind of all of the above. So I was lucky enough to obviously have worked in magazines, and I think the misconception is that I had loads of PR contacts. I kind of didn't really, because I obviously had some friends who might do like a tiny little mention, but once they'd done it once, they weren't going to do it again. What I did understand was what constituted, I suppose, getting a story from the press. So I think having someone who's got that inside knowledge is quite useful. Obviously, times have changed as to what that means now because we didn't have social media then. But I think, you know, getting someone on board who knows how to deal with the press and what would catch their attention or what would, you know, actually go as far as to annoy them is quite important. And PR, I've always done in-house because I had that sort of knowledge to start with. It made sense and it was cheaper. But now as we've grown, I think you pay so much for an external PR agency. And I think a lot of PR, really good PR, is about good relationships and lots of hard work. So I think if you can get somebody really good who knows that PR world and works hard, then I think that's a really good person to bring on. So that's something that we did early on, and I thought that was important. We did do some trade shows. The trade shows are really expensive. I always sort of grappled with the amount that you spent, and then sort of you look at that and think, well, you know, to have somebody with a company car and 6 months salary and a whole load of testers, like, you know, when you're looking at kind of a 10 by 10 a trade show, it's sort of sometimes is negligible. So I don't know about that, but I think hitting it on that level in terms of going out and actually just introducing yourself to people is really, really important. You've got to have a product and a proposition that you can, I mean, these are old things, but like the elevator pitch, I think you've got to be able to say it in your 30 seconds. It has to work and be able to be understood in that way. And I do believe that old adage that, you know, you need to sort of touch a brand half a dozen times. And what I mean by that is, you know, people might see NEOM in their friend's house. They might see it in Vogue.com. They might see it in Peter Jones. They might see it then, you know, on a celebrity tweet. They might then see it again in their local spa. And at that point they go, I'm going to buy this. So I think, you know, I don't know if it's enough to put everything into, say, like an Instagram ad campaign. I think the part of the trust is building it up on a 360 sort of platform. So all of those things. Is that kind of the answer?
Very much. And the other part of the question was, are you selling into the Scandinavian market at the moment? And thank you for your time.
Yes. So we are, I think, in talks to do quite a decent deal in Scandinavia, but I'd love to get your details because my commercial director will know more about timings and locations. And it's definitely worth me having a conversation with her.
Okay. We can share that with you, Nicola. That's not a problem. So I can connect you, Eunice, to Nicola. Eunice, thank you very much for your question. I'm going to move on to George Davies in a second. I just wanted to make a comment. I think hopefully Lara's she is on the line, Lara Morgan, Pacific Direct. A lot of the things that you're saying, Nicola, she started a toiletries business. She's on our founding board of E2E. And when you're speaking, you're reminding me a lot of the things that she talks about around sort of building a platform for your brand. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to go over to George Davies. George, would you be able to introduce yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
One of the great benefits of Zoom is you can be mobile, so apologies if there's some noise. First of all, Shalini, thank you for a great event. Really good to hear, and fantastic to hear, Nico, of a business being built brick by brick. It's just great to hear, and obviously very successful. So fantastic. My question is, you must have had your bleakest moment, and the question that's related to that is, what was your bleakest moment and how did you deal with it?
Yeah, to sort of precursor that, there's been many, as I'm sure you'll imagine. I mean, thousands. If you're asking for one, so I think up until about 3 years ago, I quite often would cry in August, because August for us, like the summer, is always a low selling time. So I remember certainly the first 5 years, there would always be a moment where I'd be, oh, this is never going to work. So Augusts were bad. And the other thing I think was just after the financial crisis, when we had a loan and the bank wanted it paying back in like such aggressive amounts that I just didn't think we could do it. And we did, but I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget how that turned. And I suppose in terms of my trust, that was like a real, always watch out, always know that they can be nice one day and turn like that the next. And so that was a real kind of grow up moment. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. We can empathise with that. I think we've heard a lot of our members currently, with the CBILS not being able to access it and the struggles that they've had, and hopefully they've had some upside from the bounce back loan, but it's one of the hardest things when you're expecting something from your bank and it doesn't materialise. I think so many of us will empathise with that. I'm going to move on, George, if there's no other question, I'm moving quickly on to Yuli, and then the Weebies, followed by Kerry Jane Hacklin, followed by Damasha Khemka, followed by Jad. So I'm just saying all your names so you can prepare your questions, because we've got so many coming through. So we'll go on to Yuli.
I think it's Julie. Is it J-U-L-I? No, it's fine. It's fine. I wanted to be different, so I dropped the E when I was about 12 years old. So I
like it. Personal branding at its best.
Absolutely. So I run a charity over in Bradford, and it's actually taken me 10 years to build a brand. And prior to switching to NEOM, I was a Temple Spa fan. Then I've been using your product for about 3 years. And I love the fact that I give it as gifts very often, like to my sister-in-law, my work colleagues, and I love the fact that they've never heard of it before, because it's like, something new that you can introduce them to, and they love it. But my particular, I'm sat here with the Tranquility candle burning. Where did you get the idea that you could pour the Tranquility candle on your hands? I've got arthritis.
Treatment candle.
It's amazing. It's just lovely. Yeah.
Do you know what? I don't know where I got that idea from. There's candles that you can pour on you, but I think what we wanted to do was obviously do our NEOM spin on it and make sure that the ingredients that were in there were really quite nourishing, because so I think where I'm quite good is I really sit in a consumer's position, and I'm really harsh critic. So I was like, a candle's pouring me is like nice and warm and lovely and stuff, but what if it was like kind of really nourishing as well? What if it really worked as that sort of home treatment? And at the time we had launched, it just had 2 treatment rooms, but there was sort of the idea was that people could have that full NEOM experience. And so we thought this would be a nice way of warming, putting a warm treatment on. Actually, to start with, we used to warm the oil up, which is not really different to a lot of other brands. They will warm the oil up and then put them on the body when they do the treatments. And so kind of the idea came about, what if we could drizzle this on? So we didn't sell that product for quite a while. We used it just in the treatments. And then, of course, it became such a big hit that we were like, actually, this is a really nice thing for you to be able to do at home. And I'm a bit of a slack Alice, and I certainly don't give massages like out very often if I can help it, But I just put a little bit on my hands and arms, and then my décolletage here. And I always find, and at the moment, I've just got back from holiday, and you've kind of got scaly legs. It's really good for that. Really good. You like wake up and your legs look amazing the next day. So sorry, I'm digressing. That's kind of
no, that's really interesting, because
it's really good for that. And you get that intense fragrance then when you're going to sleep. So you don't wake up with nice smooth hands, neck, legs. You don't have to do a full massage with it, is kind of what I'm saying. And I think it sort of took off more in that way. But I'm glad you like NEOM.
It's lovely. But I was always wondering whether, as a child, when you tip a candle just to be mischievous on your hand and it sets. I always wondered whether it came from that, actually.
Oh, do you know what? That's how we came up with the idea. That was it, because the candles weren't made of paraffin wax, they were made of natural wax. We had therapists saying, "Oh, I'm dipping my hands in it and putting it on," and I said, "Oh my God, they can't do that. They can't do that. We can't authorize that. They're going to start a fire or burn someone." And that was where it came from. So you jigged my memory. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. We're going to move on now to your Zoom name is the Weebies. So you have to introduce yourself, please. And then I'll move on to Kerry Jane Hanklin and then Dame Marsha.
Yes, hi. Sorry about my Zoom name. Can you hear me on here?
Yes.
Yes, great. Hi, my name is Louise Webster. I'm the founder of a platform called Beyond the School Run, which connects mothers with their skills and talents in the hours available to them. I love the NEOM brand, and it's really great to hear your talk. Thank you. The question I had...
Your brand, that's cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I really related to what you were saying is in terms of the sort of early stages of your vision with NEOM and being ahead of what... It was clearly a kind of the head of the curve for the well-being space for you. I'm really interested in how you maintained your commitment to your vision and whether there were certain female qualities of a female founder, like your gut intuition or whatever it might have been, that kept you, because sometimes it's quite easy to sort of lose a little bit of confidence in that vision, and yet it's very strong, and particularly to lose confidence when the curve you haven't reached that curve in terms of the world, whereas you can obviously look back now and go,
that's a really good question.
So
I have lost that confidence. I have lost that confidence several times, and I can pinpoint back to where we went off piste, and it happens so much. And I think it happens, even more when the business gets bigger and people come in and you get access to more important people who say to you, "Oh, don't you know that only works in this?" or "Don't you know to do this?" And you think, "Oh my God, they know better than me." And that's happened with people that I've kind of looked up to maybe too much at various points. And actually it's really hard, because it's kind of like personal development thing. Like, how do you keep that vision and keep your ears open to learning from new people? And that's not just kind of mentors or private equity or chairman, or that's your team as well, right? And that's kind of probably, I feel like I'm in a good place with that now, but I've had really bad places with that where I've been like, "Oh God," and I've been shook by it, or somebody else has got shook by it in the team, and they go, "Well, he says, and he's done this 10 times before, and he's built this brand," and you're, "Oh my God, well, he must know then."
And I think also, sorry, you're a mother as well, and you've got other responsibilities like your children, kind of making the right decisions that the business is going to grow alongside everything else that you have in your life is really key. So really honouring what is right for you is really important, but it's kind of recognising that, isn't it? And listening to that.
Yeah, I mean, where that's concerned, I think I was too far. The truth is, I think I was too far into NEOM to go back to my old career when I probably had my first major wobble, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I still wasn't earning the money that I was earning as a journalist at like year 6. Now, if someone had told me that in advance, I never would have done it, because I just couldn't have took that risk. I certainly wouldn't have done it with kids. So I think that was a bonus of me starting pre-kids. But then I was too far in. So it was kind of like, I felt like I jumped off the mountainside, and I couldn't then go, I don't want to swim. I have to swim. So that was quite hard for me. But then sorry, my light's just gone off, so I'm a bit dark. Sorry.
Hindsight's an amazing thing, isn't it? When you can see back, you can look back over it. I guess it's also in some ways is really working out what fills you with joy as well, isn't it? Because if you're enjoying, you can tell your passion for what you're doing even now that's a real signpost a lot of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think also, I think as women, we can be quite good at being quite humble sometimes. And I know what I'm not good at as much as I know what I am good at. Naturally, as it's grown, I've become even better at being quite confident, saying I'm actually pretty useless at all of these things. But that allows me to then go, but I'm really bloody good at that one thing. And because I have that confidence, that one thing, I can kind of bang the table and go, no, we are that thing I'm kind of keeping hold of. And so actually, I suppose that kind of squares the circle to your question of, you know, I can feel a bit more passionate about the things that I know that I'm good at, and let other people take on, you know, stuff that's just outside of my skill set. But that's funny, because when you're in the early days, of course, you know, part of the thing that gets you going is being a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where it's kind of like, that's the worst thing you can be. You need to now not be that. You need to figure out what master of one thing you are. Yeah, lots of odd, kind of lonely, funny stages, right?
That's really interesting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Best of luck. Thank you.
I'm gonna move on quickly to Kerry Jane. Hi, Kerry Jane. Can you hear us? And then today, Marsha. And then I think we have quite a few questions, so we're going to have to keep them short. We've got 15 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to be quick.
Hi, Shalini. Hi, Nicola. Nice to meet you. You and Nicola sound amazing. It's scary. I am Kerry Hackling. I'm the founder of Chair of Public Relations. I was just really interested in what you were saying about PR, because you're right, it's so important to tell your story properly and find an agency that can get under the skin of your business. But what I was wondering right now, because obviously people think that in times of economic crisis, you cut your PR and marketing budgets. And obviously in times of economic crisis, people talk about the lipstick effect. So sales of kind of small luxury items go up. The lipstick effect isn't working quite so well right now because no one can see your lipstick. Although I am still wearing lipstick under masks, so it seems a bit silly. But I mean, are you finding now is a good time to reinvest in your marketing and your PR? Because obviously there's a well-being effect.
We are a marketing business, so you know, and that's my baby. So, and everything that comes off that. So that's a leg to the business of which we can dial up or dial down. It is the business. And I think, you know, you've got to be realistic with what business you have. So if you had a local sandwich shop, for example, that people are going to see when they drive past it, I get that maybe, you know, doing PR or marketing right now in a sort of, you know, an external sense is maybe something you'd cut because people are walking past a sandwich shop. But for someone like me, or if you're sort of working on a national or an international level, how can you stop telling your story? That's what you have. It is your story. I think we've got to cut to the quick with each other. There's less room for fat to grow in businesses right now. There's less room for fat to grow in conversations, and you know, PRs have to be, like everyone else, really, really transparent with what they're offering. As a business owner, if I was talking to someone, I'd be saying, well, yeah, definitely invest into your PR, but make sure that you know exactly what you're getting and each month. You know, everyone needs to be super transparent with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key. It's being open and honest about what you're getting, what the point is, and understanding your purpose as a company as well, because so many people go into it and they don't really know what they do or what they provide, which makes it very hard for a PR agency to go in and actually explain that further.
Yeah, and just on that point, I think over the last year I've seen so many PR businesses freaking out and then saying we're like a 360 brand building. It's like, no, you're not. I find that you can't be that, because that's you're saying you're God. Like, can't be a 360 brand building. And so I lose a bit of trust at that. You know, again, it comes back to that jack of all trades thing. We're really brilliant at doing this, and we will deliver this for you. And rather than saying we'll come up with your story, and I mean, that I think is too much of a stretch. Anyway.
No, but you're right. Stick to what you're good at, I say.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kerry Jane. Really nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well.
Thanks, Shalini. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Well, nice to speak to you, not see you. Marsha, my mum. Mummy?
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Yes, I am doing unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello?
Hi.
It's so brilliant to watch both of you together.
Oh,
Do you know why? Because you have so many similarities. And Nicola, it's been an inspiration to hear you.
thank you.
Absolutely. You come across a true example of self-confidence, self-assertiveness, and somebody who has got a single focus. Obviously, starting a business like yours and building brick by brick is not easy, but you have made it. I didn't introduce myself apart from Shalini introduced me to me. I'm her mother. She is my baby. I have been an educationalist for many years. I was principal and CEO of a large further education college. So, and we used to have a beauty department where we had similar products. The question what I wanted to ask you, Nicola, is
Yes.
these products can be quite expensive
Yes.
to buy. Have you thought of those who have just started in life and they are very keen, they are in love with your products, but they can't afford to buy? Is there any way you can make the products more affordable for people who would like to try and enjoy? The reason why I'm saying, whether you know or not, Shalini is one of your the biggest fans you can. She believes in candles and organic products. My house here, we live in Staffordshire, is full of candles, and it's the positivity what they bring. So I'm just thinking, how can you allow a lot more to come near your products and enjoy?
So I suppose there's kind of three answers to what you've said. Thank you, by the way. You're lovely, mummy. There's three answers to your question. So one, we launched about 3 or 4 years ago. I'm awful with time. NEOM time goes too fast. An on-the-go collection, which was a collection of 16 of our products in much sort of smaller sizes, so people could really get involved with NEOM at a lower price point, and that starts from £8. So you can get those, and we do little mists, and we do little kind of travel collections, etc., etc. So we do have cheaper products than a £49 candle. So we just probably don't talk about them as much.
More affordable products, not cheaper.
Thank you. You're a better marketer than I am. Yes.
Okay.
And so we do have those. We just don't talk about them as much, mainly because, one thing about building a brand is kind of really talking about our heroes. So, if you've seen us, you've probably seen things like the pillow mist or, the sleep drops or, the intensive skin treatment candle or whatever. So we do have them. That's the first thing. The second thing is to actually engineer the cost down. That is the problem with naturals, and they're really, really expensive. So actually, when you look at kind of what would be a typical wholesale margin for me and the store margin, and I remember having this conversation with Selfridges early on, I had to really educate them about working with naturals. It doesn't work in the same way. In many ways, I always joke with Oliver and say, the next brand we have is going to be like a synthetic brand that smells of tomatoes and is just in an orange tub, that I don't have to explain the story, and it's super cheap, and I can press a button and 100,000 of them come out. Because working with naturals is a nightmare, not just for the cost, but also because I might have a batch of orange oil, for example, which was fine this time this year, but doesn't smell the same next year. So there's so many downsides to working with naturals. I can't tell you. The end product is far superior and works in a way, but you can't get those cheaper, unfortunately. So, but what we do find an awful lot now is that there's a value in NEOM, which I always try and sort of think about, which is kind of, I don't mean a cheap product. It's something that you think about, you consider, and you use. So I remember working out in the early days, a standard candle, for example, will give you, if you're burning it the right amount of time, 2 to 4 hours, will give you, say, 20, 25 burns, which then kind of works out about like, you know, £1 a burn. And I remember having this conversation with masseuses when we went into the spas, because I think women think like this. I think they think a bit like pound per wear of a trench, right? There's no point in me buying something that smells okay and is all right and it's 10 quid and it's fine. Because actually buying 2 of those is a complete throwaway. It's like buying the cheap dress, right? Like this dress is not hugely expensive, but because it's like probably twice as much as the really cheap high street one, I've worn it now for 5 years. So it's that kind of value.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. So we get young girls now going, I save up for it, because rather than buying like, I don't know, something that smells of cotton candy and another thing that's in like a kind of bejeweled one-off cake, like I get NEOM, it's amazing, it helps me sleep, and it works in that way. So Shalini is asking me to do short answers, and I'm a bit of a talker, I'm afraid.
I know, and I'm not going to take a lot. I'll be told off otherwise. Going to be very short. But you talked about naturals, very expensive. Being an Indian, grew up in India. The best body wrap is what we have is turmeric, proper turmeric, and gram flour mixed with yogurt, and that's your best body wrap, honestly. And it's the cheap thing you can do, and nothing can beat that. I'm going to stop on that, but you are a great role model.
Oh, thank you. Very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. I'm going to move on. Thank you, Mama. So, Nicola, the next question is from Vinita Badlani, and then I'm going to ask Elaine to speak. We've got, I know it's approaching 7. If it's okay with you, we'll run a few minutes over because I'd like to also share the poll questions. And I know Jad has been waiting for quite some while as well. So we're going to have to keep the questions short if Vinita wants to go next.
Hey, Shalini, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Hi, Nicola, big fan. You've done such an amazing talk. I mean, so inspirational and so informative, but I'll keep it short. 2 quick questions. How did you choose your business partner, Oliver? And secondly, at what point did you really pivot? So was it through setting up your own spa, or was it through online? So when did you start hitting 1 million, and what was that process like? Because obviously we know, you know, the department stores are hard, they're hard to work with. So just give me a bit of insight into that pivoting point.
I'm afraid not a great answer to the second one, because like I said to you before, brick by brick, there was no moment. And that's, I know no one wants to hear that. Everyone wants to hear, no, I'll tell you what the real thing is. It's when
so hitting 1 million would be a milestone. So
yeah, I know, but it is brick by brick. So it's a rubbish answer. And I wish that wasn't the answer. I always wanted someone to give me the magic bullet, and it doesn't exist. But a partner question I think is quite important. Oliver is completely opposite to me. We have totally different skill set. I think that's so important. So I didn't go for someone who was just going to share the load. I went for someone who had a completely different skill set to me. And I think that's really, really important. The amount of people that go, well, we both like so-and-so, so we'll be partners. It's like, well, you're going to argue in like 2 years because you're going to have the same views on things. So get someone different.
Okay. So completely different skill set as well.
Completely different.
Okay. Very good. Okay, thank you.
Can we quickly go on to Elaine and then Jad?
Hi, Elaine, you're muted.
Hello, hi, hello. It's been lovely listening to you, and I completely agree with you. It takes a good 15 years to build a brand. It took me that long to build the Couth brand, so it does take a long, long time. My question is about private equity, actually. You mentioned you've got private equity involved. And I'm so impressed that you kept the majority of your shares. Well done, you. Have you got any? Are your plans eventually to sell out and exit, or are your plans to stay with the business forever and make it part of your family legacy?
I don't know. Well, I have this kind of constant dilemma in my own head where that's concerned. I think I will bring more people on who know, again, more than me and can take it to the next level. There's elements I know I'm less interested in about kind of getting it bigger, and I can see that from the private equity sort of systems that's in place. Even though I love them, they've been brilliant. I'm just not really a corporate person, and so I have to sort of draw a line at what's true to me. But then why would I sell it all down? I enjoy it, so I'll probably stay on. But I think if I got to a point where I wasn't able to make all the decisions, you have to sort of think, well, you have to have took enough out that doesn't really bother you. Do you know what I mean?
It'll always bother you.
Yeah, and I also think go for private equity is my best tip when you don't need it, because you're in a really strong position then. Like, don't go for a private equity deal, ideally, at the point of which you are desperately needing money. We didn't need to do a private equity deal at all, and that's why we got a great private equity partner and a great private equity deal. So try and bear that in mind.
Thank you very much, Elaine, for your great question there. And I'm going to ask Jad, and then there's a couple of questions on the Q&A, which I'll just read out quickly, Nicola, because it's 7 o'clock, just 1 minute past, and then I'll share the results of the poll. If there are more questions, what I'd suggest you do is you put them on the Q&A, and I will ask Nicola to be kind enough. Yeah, so please fire away, Jad.
Hello?
Jad, we can hear you. Jad, you're on mute.
Hello?
Jad, we just heard you. Jad, you're on mute. Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hi, Jad.
Hi, Shalini. Hi, Nicola. For some reason, I can't hear you. I can only speak. I don't know why the sound just went off, but I'm going to ask my question anyway. I really appreciate you extending your time. I'm actually calling from Beirut, Lebanon. We have a whole load of issues that we're currently dealing with over here as well, but I really resonated when you said it's like walking up Everest with flip-flops, because I feel that we're at the position right there as well. I just want to ask, when did you realize that it was too much on your plate?
So, Nicola, the question is really, when did you realize there was too much on your plate? And I think what he was going to say is, how did you cope with that? How did you deal with it? So I'm going to take that as Jad's question.
I've not really got too much on my plate. I didn't really feel like that. I have days like that, obviously, but I'm quite good at kind of, going, don't let it penetrate your soul. It's a business. It's not your life. So I don't really feel like that, Jad. I've had days like that, obviously. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. It's great advice. I think it's great advice. Is to keep things in perspective, especially right now. I think people can go through very difficult times, and obviously depression is well known within the entrepreneurial community, Nicola. So it's very nice to hear you say that, because I think, as one of the key messages that we can take away as we close to enjoy our evenings is keep it in perspective. Don't let this take over your life. And my mum's on this call. She will be reminding me at the weekend when I see her what you've just said. So Jad, exactly. I'm sorry, we couldn't hear you very well. Can you hear us? Can you say anything? Did that answer the question you were going to ask? If not, I'm just going to quickly share a couple of the questions from the Q&A. And then I think we need to just share the poll results. I'm sorry, guys, we're running out of time. Nicola, I think if you were on for another hour, we would have enough to ask you. So, Jad, he's on mute again. So let me quickly ask Wad's question, Wad Asker. She's asking, when building brands or trying to penetrate new markets, how much of an effect does the soft power of your product or brand ambassadors play into succeeding? Do you use brand ambassadors, Nicola?
In a new market?
Yeah.
Well, no, not really. No, we haven't really. I wouldn't say brand ambassadors have been a big thing for us. I think that sort of is part of PR, really, is making sure that, you know, people, you might have gone to magazines before, now you might go to an influencer or a celebrity. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, as many people with as much reach that can talk about you, the better. But that should come under decent PR, really, is kind of getting the biggest megaphone that you can over the brand, if that's via a local influencer or if that's sort of, you know, a billboard. Okay. That's what you should always think is kind of where you can get that megaphone, I think, under the brand in the most effective way.
Absolutely, that makes sense. And can we just hear very highlights of your elevator pitch? What are the key things you might say in your elevator pitch is the question.
Okay, so when NEOM's concerned, I would say we're a wellbeing brand. We create 100% natural fragrances to help you sleep, stress less, boost your energy, and lift your mood.
Perfect.
That's it.
Thank you. Well, I think you can see from the chat, Nicola, and the number of questions that are coming through, you've been very, very helpful to our community.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Can't thank you enough. It's been such a pleasure. Nice to meet the lady behind the brand, finally, and we wish you continued success. One thing I'd like to share with our community is that Nicola's been very kind. With effect from midnight tonight, if you go onto her website, we will share with you the code, which I think is E2E NEOM. You can get a 25% discount on any of the full price products that are available on their own website. So that's open until Sunday at midnight. So that's extremely kind of you to make that offer.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. So,
luck, everyone, with all your ventures.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I'm just.
And now I'm off to the football run.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go for the football run. I'll share with the audience of the poll. Thank you very much.
Bye, Shalini. Bye. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Take care. Talk to you soon. So shall we share quickly, Stephen, if we wouldn't mind, just to bring up the poll results. So first question was, I'm interested in E2E. I guess the clear-cut answer there is the events. Very informative and educational. That is the main reason why people sort of enjoy our services. The second question was, which of the below services would you need most of the multiple choice? So meeting like-minded people is by far the winner there. Third question, which of the following services would benefit you? Digital marketing support, which it differs, I think, to last time. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Would you benefit from discounted access to physical or virtual offices? It's a 51% yes to IWG. They would like, people would like access to the offices. So thank you for sharing that. So those are the results. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much also to our event partner, IWG, and Richard Morris. He couldn't speak today, but I'd just like to say thank you to him and to all of the staff there. And to you all, I think the takeaway for me is keep it in perspective and work hard, but also enjoy our personal time with family and friends. So there's no time like this time to make the most of this. So I wish you all every success. I'm hoping you'll join us next week when we have Jim McCall. He founded Clyde Blowers. The week after we have Simon Woodruff, followed by Damien Gabriel. Then we have another House of Lords virtual breakfast with Lord Bill Moria and Maurice Ostro, who's the Prime Minister's Special Advisor to Entrepreneurship. After that, we have John McGlynn, self-made billionaire, and Lawson Muncaster in October, second week of October. Check out the membership platform on E2E, the membership page and the events page. And I hope you're finding this useful, and I hope you will stay connected with us. Let us know, drop me an email, drop my team an email, how we can help you. So thank you and enjoy your evenings. Go and burn a candle or buy a neon one. Okay, thanks guys. Good night.